Mic check, mic check. Welcome in to everybody that is here. Juan, hello. Ruby, hello. David. Yup, looking forward to this week. I can go ahead and delete this. Hello everybody, welcome in. This is the plan breakdown for this week. Primarily for tomorrow, not really for the rest of this week. Usually during these live streams, what I'll do is I'll give my plan for tomorrow, and then I'll talk about setups and stocks that have potential for the rest of the week. This week is a little different. This week is really going to be based on how this most recent news with the coronavirus variant is digested and what the market thinks of it. You know, is this variant going to be a big deal like the original coronavirus was? Is it going to be something like that? Or is it something that we just kind of shrug off because we already have the ability to create vaccines within a few months? Only time will tell. So as I was going through and doing analysis for tomorrow, what I was finding was that there's really a large lack of technical setups going into this week and really going into tomorrow. So for that reason, I don't have a lot of stocks that I'm going to be talking about this afternoon. I do have some that I want to definitely keep an eye on that will be making my watch list, and I'll tell you my exact plan for how I intend to trade those stocks. But it might be a short session. You know, it's really going to depend on where the market opens up tomorrow and what opportunity is presented to us, you know, where the money is flowing. All right, so now that we have some people in here, let's go ahead and get started. The first one on the watch list for tomorrow, without a doubt, will be MRNA. We had this added to the watch list last week. You see a lot of gaps here on the daily chart time frame. By the way, I will always start my analysis on the daily chart time frame and kind of work my way down as I see fit. But so here we have the original beginning of the sell, right? So we started off with this gap down right here, which to this date has still not been filled. So we're going to just draw a trend line right there, and we're going to say $360. That's a likely resistance point, right? Gaps, by the way, are disconnects on the daily chart time frame between two candles. There's a gray shaded box right here. That's how I will usually indicate gaps. So we have a gap down there. Then we have a gap down over here, followed by another gap down shortly after that. This gap at the very, very bottom was filled. And then we have another gap up most recently last week, Friday, as the variant news came out, right? So mRNA gapped up, then decided to make a pretty large move. I think we're looking at, a little over a 30-point move there intraday. From about 315 up to 350. It did pull back some, but held up most of the gains for the day, and then towards the close started to rise a little bit again. So with all of this volume coming into mRNA, with all of this hype, with all of this news going into this stock, without a doubt, it stays on the watch list going into tomorrow's session. It's a very interesting... we've got a very interesting setup here now because we have a gap overhead from 360 up to about 380. We've got the whole number overhead at 350, which if we just drew a trend line from there all the way back, I mean, you could see where this was treated as a resistance. Then we have the gap area just below, which is in fact not just one gap, but it's a double gap. So we're looking at a gap from like let's just say 313 down to about 300, roughly, a double gap there. So it's kind of crazy, the setup that we have presented here. Plus, on top of all of that, mRNA is making 30-point moves, right? That's what the volatility has brought in. All this volume has brought in very large average true range moves. I think this is without a doubt one to watch. I have no bias on it though. So going back to what I originally said about waiting to see how the market is going to react to this stuff, maybe that variant is not something that needs to be such a big deal. Maybe it was overdone. Maybe the sell-off was overdone, and this gap up on mRNA might have been overdone. If that's the event, or if that's the case, then I think we could see mRNA potentially pull back to correct, right? So that would mean that we're looking to short this maybe below 313 or 310 or near the 50 EMA around 308. It will depend because there's a double gap there. So we could short it below the lows of Friday or look to take it long over 350 in the event that maybe this stuff is really a big deal. The market will continue to sell off and mRNA will continue to gain traction and move towards the top side. So my plan is this. I'm not going to have a bias on mRNA. I'm looking to take it long over 350 for the run to 360. I will reevaluate the trade after it gets to 360 because above 360 there's a gap to 380. All right, so my first goal is just take it long over 350, price target of 360, reevaluate at 360. If I see that we're breaking 360, I'll probably go back in on the trade and trade it up to maybe 380 or so. The other plan for this stock, same stock, two scenarios, is to just short it below 313. If it doesn't make a new recent high, meaning if it does not break 350, and it does not make a new recent low, meaning it does not break 313, if it stays within this range here, there is no trade. I'm not interested in trading the chop. I only want to stick with something that is directional. So best case scenario is that mRNA either opens up right under 350 and we could just look to take it long shortly after the open over that price point, or it opens up near 313 but over it so that we can look to short it if it fails to hold as support. All right, so it's really going to largely depend on the open. I wish that I had more of a sure thing here for you. The plan is solid. It's just a matter of which way is it going to go. All right, that was number one on the watch list. If you're just joining in, I'm going to be breaking down my entire trading plan for tomorrow, and then I will be taking charting requests at the end of this session. Number two kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, is Boeing. Number two is Boeing. This makes the watch list for tomorrow. I need to back this up to the weekly chart time frame so you can see the magnitude of the support point that it bounced at here most recently. So the gap down, well, let me move to the daily first. The gap down that occurred was also on the same news, or the same reason why mRNA gapped up, right? It's the COVID variant news that caused this to gap down. Travel restrictions, possibly being thrown around, all of that good stuff, right? Which we know is not good for any travel stocks, to include Boeing and airlines, etc. So it gapped down. Now we're going to go look at the weekly chart time frame. The significance of where it gapped down to is that this is a big level of support that has been held multiple times on the weekly chart time frame, but is a big gap on the daily chart time frame as well. You can't see it here on this chart. I'd have to move my time axis back a little bit, but it is a gap, right? So 191, 192 area, that's pretty close to where Boeing pulled back to. It got bought up off of 194 and ran back up to the top side. So what do we have going on here? We've got possibly an overreaction to that variant news with the sell-off, and investors see this as, rather than something that's scary, they see it as a buying opportunity. Buy it up off of the support near 194, we'll run this back up. So what I'm looking for on Boeing is very simple. I'm just looking for a break of the $200 whole number. You see that right there. I'm looking for a break of the $200 whole number for the run up to maybe 205, 206 to start to fill this gap that was created. This is a scenario that again, will likely depend on how this COVID news is digested. If it's really something to be worried about, then I don't think that Boeing makes the move that we want to, with it pushing up to fill the gap. And I think that this comes down further, right? But if it is not, if the variant is not something that the market really thinks should be so worried about, then, well, we see this maybe fall back down to the bottom side. So it will depend. It will depend. Long over 200, though, is what I'm looking for on Boeing. I'm not super interested in shorting this one. mRNA is different because it had a gap overhead and a gap below. Boeing, it does have a gap below, but it needs to fall a little more before I'm interested in a short. So maybe if it opened up near 192, I'd be all over that, but not with where it's currently trading at right now. Number 3 on the watch list for tomorrow is going to be SPY, right? Without a doubt, SPY's got to stay on the watch list, or has to make the watch list. If SPY is the factor, the reason why a lot of these larger names move the way that they do, like we talk all the time about, make sure you have market backing. Let's try to have market backing as much as possible, right? You don't want to necessarily be going long on something like Apple when you've got SPY or /ES falling or getting a lot of volume to the bottom side. There are cases where that is okay, right? Stocks will show relative strength against the overall market. But typically, you want to have that market backing as much as possible. So with all of this news being out on the market, and SPY basically rejecting these highs right here, that resistance near 470. What I'm looking for on SPY then is just a new low to be put in. All I'm looking for is a continuation short below 457.5. I'm looking for a new low to be put in on SPY, and I'll be looking to take that short. That is basically going to tell me that the trend of the sell-off here is continuing, and that I'm on the right side of the trade because I'm sticking with the current trend, which would be down. Actually, /ES, let's take a look at this real quick and see. Yeah, so right now we've got a little bit of recovery. Let me move to the 5-minute. Little bit of recovery. This is futures, right? /ES. It's a future that SPY follows. Little bit of recovery on the overall market so far, but still a lot of time before the market opens. So yeah, just looking for new recent lows to be put in on SPY for a possible continuation short to the bottom side. I've got 3 more stocks that I want to talk about, and then I'll jump into taking charting requests. Let's go with AMD. So AMD is going to be one that I think probably stays as a back burner stock for us because, again, we want to have that market backing. So if SPY's falling and the market's coming down, I don't think that we're going to get the expected move that we want on AMD, but here's the deal. It's been making higher lows and meeting one single point of resistance right here near, let's say, $158 for quite some time now, nearly half a month. So at this point, AMD really didn't fall too much with the market whenever it pulled back. I mean, it did pull back off this resistance point, but that's almost to be expected anyways. So what I'm looking for on AMD is that if we do have that green market, recovery mode market going into tomorrow, I want to see AMD break 158 and give us a run up to and maybe through the all-time highs near 162. All right, so AMD just looking for a breakout play over $158. Again, this is probably going to be a good one to just set as a back burner stock, meaning that all you have to do is just set an alert on 158. If you get a break there, then we have a potential trade, we have opportunity. If you don't get the break there on this stock, then there's no reason to really even watch it until we get that break that we're looking for. LCID is the next one that I want to maybe just mention for a later trade this week. I don't think that it's set up right now, but this is a pennant pattern shaping up here on the daily chart time frame. So again, we have higher lows and lower highs all kind of being compressed to this point. I think that LCID is still in play, even though it gapped down, it got bought back up. So it's still in play given where it's at, but there's no trade on this yet until we see higher highs put in. So in my opinion, LCID needs to break 54 before we even touch this, before we even take a trade on it. So it's got a little bit to go, right? It's trading at just under 52 right now. So it needs to break 52, run up towards 54. Once we get the break of 54, I think that it's possible to see a run towards 58 and then 60 beyond that, but one step at a time, gotta break 54 first. So I just have an alert set right there at 54 on LCID, and I'll stay patient on this one, right? Let that setup come to me. The last one that I want to talk about is Tesla. This one, I wrote down Tesla, and then I just put an O beside it, and that O for me is going to stand for opening price. I don't know where Tesla opens up at, but it seems like, you know, these dips here have been getting bought up. Dip down, bought up, dip down, bought up, dip down. Maybe we get bought up here again on Tesla. I'm starting to see a larger pennant pattern shape up on Tesla as well, as it's holding this gap area near 950 as a support. It's done so multiple times. We actually had a double bottom right here at $1,000 before this most recent run up. So I want to see, can Tesla continue to put in a lower high, and does it get bought up once more on this dip? So I've just got an alert set over $1,111. I want to see if this dip gets bought up. Maybe we add this to the watch list, right? So it will depend on the opening price for me on Tesla. But our main charts, just to recap, that we're going to be watching will be mRNA, without a doubt. mRNA, my plan is a long idea over 350, all right? A short idea below 313. Boeing will be making the watch list without a doubt. My plan for this is just a long idea over 200. I'm not really interested in shorting Boeing where it's currently trading at. So I'm just looking for the gap fill to the top side, long over 200. The next one that will definitely be on the watch list for tomorrow is SPY. This is just going to be a short idea below $457.50. So I'm just looking for a new recent low to be put in on SPY and a continuation short down to the bottom side. So if we don't get that and SPY bounces, then there's no trade here. I get this all the time. Some people are like, yeah, you called this out and it never hit. So you must have taken a loss on it. If something doesn't hit or move the expected way that I think it's going to move, then I just don't take that trade, right? So if SPY bounces and it never even breaks 457.5, then that idea as a short is just nullified, voided, right? It doesn't count because obviously the stock's not moving the way that we thought it was going to move. And then AMD. AMD will be a side chart watch for us over 158. Looking for the breakout of this kind of messy ascending triangle pattern here on the daily for the run up to the all-time highs. Two stocks that we want to just kind of keep an eye on for this week, later on this week, will be LCID. Keep your alerts set over 54. And then Tesla, I have my alerts set over 1111. All right, just to see if this dip here gets bought up and the stock can push back over the $1,100 whole number and start to put in some recent higher highs for the rebound. Cool, pretty simple. Usually I have like 10 plus stocks that I'm talking about, but tomorrow, I'm really only watching 4, and then we'll see what happens with LCID and Tesla. So mRNA, Boeing, SPY, and AMD, that's it. Will really depend on how this news gets digested. What I want to do is take some charting requests from you all. I'm going to be honest, there aren't a lot of stocks out there right now that look technically or look like they have an opportunity to be traded from just from a technical standpoint. So I mean, I'll take charting requests, but bear with me. It might be painful, right? You might hear a lot of, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. Let's see. Shop. Somebody asked about SHOP. Can I check out Shop? They had record Black Friday numbers. All right, so here's the deal. Record Black Friday numbers means what? We don't know how this is going to react. I actually like where it's kind of trading at right now, because this line of resistance there, 1550, is now kind of being treated as a support. I mean, I know that Shop came down, but so did a lot of other stocks on Friday. So since what you mentioned here was that they had record Black Friday numbers, if that is something that will positively impact the price of the stock, then we could expect Shopify to gap up. If that's the case, then I wouldn't mind taking a trade on Shop, but you have to be careful, because if it gaps up too much, then it'll feel like an overextended gap up that will just pull back at the open. So what I would be looking for is something that is not felt, or that is not feeling overextended in the pre-market session if the stock gaps up. And what I would be looking for also is a break of 1700. You see here on the daily chart time frame, I know that the all-time highs are right here at 1762, but all of this price action here is occurring between 1700 and let's just say roughly 1550. So where these candles are closing, right, where all the candles are closing, that's the true importance of the price action. I know that we have a wick up here, and we got the body out here. That's not really, that's just saying, hey, the stock ran up, but they were there. The bears were there to step in and drag it back down. So I would be looking for a break of 1700. In fact, I myself will be setting an alert there, and then wait to see, if that news, if that news really is a positive catalyst for this stock. It's just going to depend on where this opens up at. But be careful, right? You don't want to be trading anything that feels overextended. So if it gaps up from where it's at up to 1700, that's a 100-point gap up. That might be something where you just be like, man, it's probably better off to just let it go today, see what it does. Maybe it has a sideways day, or maybe it pulls back and corrects some, and then trade it on a day where it breaks where it breaks out of 1700 after maybe a couple of days of consolidation. All right, somebody asked about NVDA. So with this one, I don't really see anything here as far as like technical setups go. I don't see anything here that has me wanting to trade this. This run up was awesome. That was really fun to trade. We were in on this run up, but at this point, it feels overdone to me, right? So I'm not surprised that the stock is doing a lot of chopping around up here. And you might look at this and say, well, whoa, Gates, that's a bull flag pattern. It gapped up out of the bull flag on earnings and made new recent highs, and now it's just forming another bull flag pattern. There is technically a setup here. Yes, I would agree with you on that, but the issue is trying to time when this is going to break out versus when it's just going to keep chopping. So much like Shopify, what I would do is just reset an alert over where the bodies of the candles are closing at. So that's going to put your true resistance right here at $330. So we have that one breakout right here up to 346, but none of these candles on the daily chart are closing over 330. and it seems like every time it gets up to 330, boom, rejection. Up to 330, boom, rejection. So on a break of 330, you might have a trade up to 340 and 346, but that's the first level that it needs to get over. So I would just set alerts on that and wait for that to break. Somebody mentioned mRNA. I actually already talked about that one. That one, it will be making my watch list for tomorrow. So if you're just now tuning into the live stream, all of the things that I've already said and covered will be, it is recorded and it will be uploaded live right after I end this stream. So all you'd have to do is just rewatch the stream once I end it. So I'm not going to be reviewing mRNA. You said PFE gain momentum last week. Yeah, so like all of the vaccine stocks are in the same category, right? So you've got PFE, mRNA, and then NVAX. They're all kind of like gapping up on the same news. So the analysis for one of them is true for all of them, right? I mean, the only thing that's really different is just your technical levels. But it's like, okay, well, we're just looking for either a new recent high or a new recent low to be put in and something to break out of the inside day to give us a directional move. You know, that's going to tell us basically like, hey, are these stocks going to continue up? If they are, it will make a new high and tell us, or are they going to pull back and correct? And if they are, we're just looking for a new recent low. That will tell us. Somebody asked, do I think Plug will do a sympathy play if Tesla is up in the morning? No, not really. I don't think that. I think if you see F-Cell up in the morning, then you might see Plug up. Those two are more closely related than Tesla and Plug. Though, you know, all of these stocks, like the BLNK, I mean, the whole EV sector, it's been a really hot sector as of lately, but I'm wondering, you know, at what point that this most recent run kind of ends. And I'm really just waiting to see what LCID does with this pennant pattern here and what Tesla does with these, well, I already deleted it, with this pennant pattern here. And I think that might kind of dictate what the rest of this sector is going to do once the big one, once Tesla decides what it wants to do. I see a couple of you asking about mRNA. I've already mentioned that one. So just rewatch the stream whenever I end this live, and it'll be uploaded there. Day Trade Professor, welcome in. Thank you so much. What are my thoughts on NAKD? Right, so let me take a look at it. NAKDs, yeah, so this is a penny stock. If you want my honest thoughts, this is a pump and dump. All right, it's very hard to do any type of futuristic technical analysis with something that really just pumps on news and then comes down. And the reason why I say this is a pump and dump is because, well, you just look at the chart. I mean, every time it runs up on high volume, that must be positive news, right? Runs up on high volume, volume dies out, and everybody forgets about the stock. Then all of a sudden it has maybe a news article or something that it's mentioned in, runs up on some volume, and then gets burned out. Again, runs up on some volume, right, and then gets burned out. Runs up on volume, right, burns out. Runs up on volume, here, burns out. That's a pump and dump. There's nothing here that I can do as far as technical analysis goes to tell you when this is going to pump again. I have no idea, because that's going to just depend on, whenever this stock gets mentioned in whatever article, or I don't know anything about this brand. So maybe they come out with a new line of products or something, and the stock will pump again. I stay away from stuff like this and stay away from trading stocks like this because it is literally impossible to guess futuristic movement. I mean, I do see it's holding support at 50 cents, so maybe if you want a low risk buy, you could buy it off 50 cents and just hold and wait for a pump to 90 cents, because that seems to be the most recent trend. But yeah, from a day trade perspective, I'm sorry, I just don't see anything here. That is definitely a pump and dump penny stock. What are my thoughts on ROKU? Yeah, so ROKU kind of falls into that category of stay-at-home stocks, right? So if we're talking about this new COVID variant being something that is really going to affect the market, and we're going to see a lot of these major names kind of pull back, a lot of the maybe retail names pull back, a lot of the Starbucks type names pull back, then we're going to see a lot of the stay-at-home names such as ROKU, DOCU, ZM all start to pick back up their momentum. Maybe even something like Netflix would pick up momentum. Looking at this though, I mean, I really think that that ROKU is oversold here on the daily chart time frame. But maybe it was overvalued when it started to hit $500. Not too long ago, this stock was just trading at like $80. So, this double top here and then this pullback, it doesn't seem crazy to me, because I also remember where this stock was trading at prior to that big run. So at this point, I would just start to look for higher highs to be put in. And you definitely don't want to see any sort of lower lows, right? Any sort of lower lows, and this thing still has plenty of room to drop, because it is trading underneath the 200 EMA on the daily. And a good way to kind of judge the trend of a stock is this: use that 200 moving average on the daily chart time frame. If the stock is trading above that 200-day moving average, then the stock is in an uptrend overall, right? Whereas the stock, if it's trading below that 200-day moving average, then it's considered to be in a downtrend. And one of the ways to increase your probability, increases your chances of being correct and profitable on a day trade, is to trade with the overall trend on the daily chart time frame. So as much as possible, if we're analyzing something and I'm trying to go long on ROKU, it's very tough to gauge where the bottom would be, right? Because a lot of people might have thought, well, this was the bottom as it was holding support. And then boom, you get a big gap down after the earnings report, big gap down on negative news, and then the stock continues to fall after that. So it's hard to time reversals, especially when the stock is already downtrending. So just remember that the trend is your friend. Wait for higher highs to start being put in here on the daily chart time frame before you look to take that long. That's the slope there of this most recent downtrend. So that would mean that you might even want to wait till you get a break of 250 before even entertaining a long idea on this. And that's just on the safe side, right? All right, somebody mentioned DKNG. Can we take a look at DKNG? Yeah, so DKNG's really also been in this kind of like super downtrend. It does feel oversold at these levels on the weekly chart time frame. This is kind of like a big level of support right here. So if you don't know this, the area where a stock breaks out of or down from a pattern is kind of like a hidden level or area of support and resistance. So this right here, what I just drew up, this pennant pattern there on the weekly chart time frame, this is where we broke out of the pennant pattern at, right? Right at around $36. So when the stock broke out of the pennant pattern, where did it pull back to test the support? The area where it broke out from. So that is a hidden level of support and resistance. So if we were to just extend that level all the way across, now you see the significance of where DKNG is trading at currently. Yes, so it is a very important level here on DKNG. to kind of hold up. I wouldn't want to see, if you're long on DKNG, you definitely wouldn't want to see any more recent lows than the lows that it's already created, because it is currently at a support point. But much like ROKU, it is definitely in a strong downtrend, and it is below that 200 EMA. It is below that 50 EMA. So if you're trying to time the reversal back to the top side, be careful. You would be buying into a stock that is definitely downtrending. But it is at a level of support, and a pretty major level of support at that. Somebody mentioned Snow. Yeah, so Snow has earnings coming up. Fundamentals will always take precedence over technicals. First of all, from a technical standpoint, I don't really see anything here that's saying that this is a high probability trade. So what I would do on Snow is just wait. I would just wait to see what happens during the earnings report. Does the stock gap up or does it gap down? And then I would trade the gap to either direction using some sort of gap strategy. Yeah, that's not far away. 12-1. Wait till after the earnings report. It's anybody's guess what the stock will do before then. All right. I'm going to call it an afternoon here. If you missed the stocks that I talked about, somebody did type it up in the comments. So if you just scroll up, Mount Legend _10 typed up the stocks that I talked about there. So thank you for that. In fact, I'll just pin that message there so you could take a look at it. If I didn't get around to analyzing the stock that you're requesting, just shoot me a message, right? You can always DM me on Discord or DM me on Instagram and ask me about it, and I'll be happy to answer it there. Take care. Make sure that you're paying attention to where the money is flowing tomorrow, and what the stock market decides to do about this whole COVID variant thing. If we're making new recent lows, it might not be a good idea to be long unless you're long on something like a vaccine stock. Otherwise, if the market is recovering, then you might see some of these vaccine stocks correct and pull back, and those will be ones that you potentially want to be short on. So it's going to depend. Just stay patient. Let's see where this market goes and takes us. Good luck tomorrow, and I will see you all in chat. Take care. Thank you for being here, and let's make some money.